Hey guys, good morning. I want to start a new topic called flexible dieting, something you might be slightly familiar with. This is a topic that is going to take a long time to hit the bottom on because so many people have different perspectives. And I think it'll help if we just kind of go back to the etiology of this whole thing. And I always find it best when I get that perspective from people that know the entire industry. They kind of grew up in what I would call the golden age of what's happening in physique sports in terms of just what the evolution of nutrition has been, where things kind of started maybe you could say in the 1950s and 60s, where they progressed to, then the natural bodybuilding movement came online about in the 90s and so forth, and then we moved through a lot of time quickly with a lot of research and a lot of people jumping into the fray, and now here we are today. There's just a lot of misconceptions, I believe, and a lot of confusion. I get a lot of email every day from people who are just asking questions that shouldn't even be questions at this point. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to kind of tackle this and we're going to go through it piece by piece. But as I said, I want to take a step back and not give you just my opinion, but I get to spend a lot of time with some really cool people in this industry. I was just in California spending a couple days with Ryan Doris. I talk with Paul Revelia on the phone all the time. Lane and I are friends and check in all the time. He invites me to speak at his camps. I've been able to work with the ISSN quite a bit and speak at a couple of their conferences. So I'm in that mix. And the people who have been alongside me the entire time always credit me with being the godfather of natural bodybuilding nutrition or peaking or the father of flexible dieting. I don't know what they say, but Tyler Mayer is a great guy who actually owns the website flexibledieting.com. And all of these people who give me credit for that simply know that in the natural side of the industry, because of Steve Downs and Natural Bodybuilding and Fitness Magazine, the WNBF and INBF, which is now owned by Nancy Andrews, Bob Bell, Tina Smith, phenomenal people. I kind of grew up in that era and wrote for them for a solid 15 years, starting more than 20 years ago. And that's where a lot of this information started. It's where we kind of hashed out everything that is what you see today. And I got to tell you, the way this began was never so that you could just go out and eat a bunch of crap and say, well, as long as it fits my macros, it's cool. Nothing could be more fucking ridiculous. Let me just put that out there first. That has nothing to do with you being successful, you being healthy. Can you be flexible and occasionally indulge and so forth? Absolutely. But I want to talk about more the middle ground where I see a lot of people failing now. That's where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. So flexible dieting started because I simply, as a competitor and as kind of a budding scientist, health scientist, looking at how this works, looking into a lot of physiology textbooks. I was doing my master's and PhD in health and nutrition at the time as I was becoming a pro bodybuilder myself. So all of this stuff was a big passion of mine, and I wanted to figure it out. So like most scientists, I was only absorbed in one thing, and that was the process, the discovery. I didn't realize we were creating something that would become kind of a sub-industry, now even being taught in university exercise science programs. Dr. Bill Campbell, who was the president of the ISSN, is now teaching courses on bodybuilding nutrition at the graduate level, which is something I would never have thought would happen 15 or 20 years ago, even 2 years ago. But it's happening. So I want you to know that simply, instead of following rigid diets, if you have a coach or a consultant or you're reading magazine articles and they say, oh, eat this for breakfast, eat this for lunch, eat this, blah, 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 the fact that you can say, well, no, instead of chicken, I would rather have fish. Instead of potatoes, I'd rather have pasta or something like that. That's how it all began. Just having that flexibility. Or if somebody says I need to have 50 grams of carbs at this meal, why can't I divide it into 2 or have a bigger space here? Simply because it fits my schedule. That's what flexibility is all about. But you still have to have enough structure. So again, as I said, people who use this as just a ridiculous tool to eat whatever they want, of course you can still get lean because on the surface, a calorie is just a calorie. Underneath that statement, there are absolutely differences. You're going to have glycemic index differences that might matter. Even the staging of your meals, as I said, with meal timing and just spacing is going to play a role. A lot of things, but even just in food quality, you're absolutely going to see a difference, especially when you get down to whole food versus processed food. Anytime you are giving somebody else full trust in looking at a label or going into a restaurant and hoping that it matches their website, you know that's not absolutely accurate. It's probably not even close. You'd be lucky to come within 20 or 30%. So anytime you're eating basic foods that you are in control of, you're preparing, you're always going to have better results. So that's just a behavioral aspect. That doesn't even have to get into the biochemistry of it. It's just common sense. So putting that side away just a little bit, I want to talk about what I see in the middle. So I still work with clients. I accept a couple clients a month, and I keep a nice pool of people I work with because I love to do it, and I get a lot of the hard cases, people with health or medical issues. We have more than 100 diet doc clinicians and program owners around the world, and as I said, a lot of that gets filtered down to me with people who just need a little extra help and attention. So, as I have been communicating with some of my clients in the last couple weeks, the same kind of topic has been front and center on our owners forum, where we all communicate as clinicians and discuss, best practices and that kind of thing. And it's these people who are struggling have kind of a common denominator, and that is that they're introducing almost too much flexibility. They don't have enough structure. So I'll give you an example of two clients that I spoke with just yesterday. One had been dieting with me for probably 3 months and had some good success initially, and then it started plateauing, and I'm looking at food logs, I'm studying the cumulative history of what we're doing, and I'm just not seeing things that would make me think, this is the issue, this is what we have to fix. And so I start questioning, is this person maybe just not tracking accurately? Are they estimating? Are they really counting every bite? Those kind of things matter. And again, it goes back to, no, I'm doing everything great. So I said, okay, here's what I want to do. Take a week and find some meals that you really like and they're kind of go-to. Let's create a pattern. Let's say every afternoon, this is your snack. Every lunch, this is what you're going to eat. And just create some consistency. And I didn't tell him exactly what to eat. I do that often. I'll get to that in a second. But he started getting into these patterns, being a little more cognizant of what he's doing. And after going up and down, just, a pound or two a week, just his net weekly average isn't moving. All of a sudden, during this week where he's focused a little bit more on structure, he loses 4 pounds. What's the difference? This is something I do with every single client that feels stuck. And it always works. I'll of course look at what we need to change with food sources and that kind of thing. Maybe meal timing. If I feel like the macronutrient profile, the calorie intake is okay, I don't want to reduce that. If somebody's not losing, I don't immediately start cutting away food. I look for ways to be more accurate, more efficient, and maximizing metabolic capacity. So I had the same conversation with a client who is also kind of all over the board. I mean, great flexible dieting, right? He's eating whatever he wants, and the numbers are coming out right at the end of the day, but a lot of processed food, packaged food, restaurant food, and he's just not getting anywhere. So I explained this to him, and he said, okay, I'm in. Tell me exactly what to eat, and I will do it. Now that is the antithesis of flexible dieting, but they're not necessarily opposites where you have to choose one or the other. You can get the best of both worlds. You can create some structure and still have the flexibility I described. So let me tell you how this works. I also started working personally with 2 of our diet doc clinicians who want to get ready for a professional photo shoot. So here are 2 of the most educated, experienced, well-trained nutrition consultants in the world. And this is their first day of their diets, and they're just kind of getting things set up. So let me read to you what they did. One of them for breakfast had a 1/3 cup oats, 6 ounces egg whites, 1/3 cup blueberries, 2 tablespoons powdered peanut butter, and noted out all the protein, carbs, fats, and so forth. So what I noticed there is some first of all, a lot of accuracy. There's absolutely weighing and measuring going on there, but also it's really good food. I can imagine that with the powdered peanut butter and the blueberries and so forth, those are mixed into the oats, and it's something that sounds good. So the other person has also egg whites, chopped apples, oats, candied pecans, 28 grams weighed, and even noted the coffee and the tablespoon or so of hazelnut sugar-free creamer, just so she can count those 4 calories. So again, just supreme accuracy, but it looks really good. That's a solid meal that these two people might have those as go-to foods that they eat 5, 6, 7 days a week because they just simply like it. You're not going to see Pop-Tarts and donuts and waffles and other things in there because they have an exact goal. They want to be at this place at this time for a photo shoot, and they know how it's done. Now, with flexibility, could they change that around once in a while? Maybe just deviate because of a social occasion? Absolutely. Travel, it's going to happen. But they're choosing a structure that they know works. So the next meal, I don't even know what this is, 3 shot blocks. That might be like a protein bar type thing. And then Diet Doc Vanilla Bean Precision Protein Blend, of course, the best protein in the industry. So that, again, that's obviously a snack, something quick. The other person looks like she moved into lunch, which was 1 cup sweet potato, 2.5 ounces of lean ground beef, and 20 grams of fat-free Greek yogurt, 16 grams of fat-free cheddar cheese. So making the decision with the fat-free yogurt, fat-free cheese to save some fat intake there, but then had ground beef. So obviously making that decision very, very appropriately to make sure that in that meal she's got exactly what she wants macronutrient-wise as well as taste-wise. And she used that as kind of a big meal. A cup of sweet potatoes, a lot of her carbs for the day, so she's creating kind of an anchor meal there. And I assume because of being at work and maybe being between a lot of clients and so forth, she wants to feel sated for several hours in the afternoon. Because then her next meal looks like it might be kind of a pre-workout meal, is also Diet Doc Precision Protein Blend with 8 ounces of almond milk. Whereas the other person went to lunch with 4 ounces chicken, 4 ounces sweet potato, 4.5 ounces Brussels sprouts. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but all the way down, even to some things I would call indulgent. Now here's where flexibility can come in. As part of dinner, one of the clients had 2 dark chocolate squares, which could be a trigger food for some people. You might not be able to consume 2 squares and put it away, but this is something to try and reach, to have that kind of control and discipline. I will tell you that these 2 clinicians, it's funny that they're dieting to get ready for a photo shoot because they both look amazing now. Anybody on the planet would die to look like they look now, but they just want to get a little sharper, lose a few pounds. And this is stuff I guarantee you that they eat day in and day out all the time. That's how they maintain such good levels of health and body composition, but they're just taking it to this level for a few weeks for this photo shoot. Another thing I thought was interesting, just thinking about being slightly decadent or really taking care of your palate and making sure you don't feel like you're dieting too rigidly. The other client had for kind of a last snack, half a cup of strawberries, 20 grams of bananas, back to a little fat-free Greek yogurt, and obviously making just kind of a nice little sweet dessert food. But with the Greek yogurt, it's high protein with just a little carb. So that's what I want to leave you with today. It's just what flexible dieting really means and what it doesn't mean. It's not a free-for-all where you can just eat whatever you want and wantonly hope that everything's going to work out because the numbers match. You've got to consider the accuracy of even your sources. You've got to consider your meal timing and spacing. You got to look at your workouts. I always prioritize carbs, for example, pre and post workout. Where do you want those carbs in your day? How are you going to schedule out your fat versus carb intake? All those things matter. You don't just haphazardly throw a bunch of food together and keep a running total through the day. So you've got structure, which even if you're a responsible, forward-thinking person who wants flexibility, you still have to have enough structure to make this work. But of course, we want flexibility to make it livable and something you can do long-term. If you combine those things together accurately, you're going to win. You're not only going to reach your goal, it's going to be easier. You're going to have a much better time, much clearer time when you transition to maintenance and just beyond, whatever goals you have next. So I hope that helps. We're definitely going to keep this topic rolling from time to time, and appreciate you guys checking in. Thanks. Bye.